Our first panel tonight features two voices of the 117th Congress. They are just finishing their first term, and we talked backstage a little bit, and they have some wisdom to share. Congresswoman, I just wanted to ask you, we have some incoming members now. You were an incoming member a couple years ago. Obviously, the pandemic made things challenging. But what advice would you have, whether it's work-life balance, working with the media? What advice would you give?
This is one of the toughest jobs you could ever have. I would say, in terms of any advice that I have, I would tell all incoming freshmen, all new members, not to forget why they're here in the first place. You're here to serve your constituents, and there are a lot of things that go on in D.C. That are very challenging. You may pass bills, you might not. You're going to vote on hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces of legislation. But if you're not taking care of your constituents back home, if you forget about them, you won't be coming back. And that's the reason that we all got elected, was to serve our constituencies. And I have, I think, a snapshot of the country. I joked with Jake earlier before we came out here. I have like the tale of two districts. I have very blue areas and I have very red areas. Mm-hmm. And I remember when President Biden was talking about pardoning the pot crimes at the federal level and looking at rescheduling, cannabis. And I praised him on a Friday. And then on a Saturday, I'm doing shots in a honky-tonk bar and riding a mechanical bull, right? And so nice. You got to remember who you're serving and to be there with your constituents every single day, meeting their needs. And that is the most fulfilling part of the job.
What would be helpful for the new members to know as far as what surprised you? I mean, we were talking earlier before about how the Capitol to me is still a maze.
I still get lost
in
the Capitol.
Easy to get lost.
I get lost. I get lost a lot still, even 2 years in. But I want to talk about something that Jake had mentioned earlier, lowering the temperature. Yeah. One of the things that surprised me, and I know we see the partisanship back home, but it didn't have to be that way. And it's up to us, leaders of this country, to set the temperature, to talk about things in a way where we can debate ideas, we can debate legislation, and we don't have to attack or literally physically fight each other out on the streets. And I think that's really important, to set a good example that you can be a conservative. I consider myself very fiscally conservative, but in my first term in the minority as a conservative, I helped pass over 20 bills out of committee, over 10 out of the floor of the House. You can make magic happen up here if you're willing to try and work hard and reach across the aisle.
Well, I want to agree with everything that Nancy just said. And one thing I tried to do, and a piece of advice I would give to new members, and I'm hoping to continue doing, the House floor is really actually a tremendous place to learn. I think if you walk onto the House floor and you have a student mindset as opposed to a campaign mindset or a politician's mindset, and you say, I want to have 434 conversations with other members and see if I can have them speak 80% of the time, which is not hard because we're all politicians, and see what I can learn from them about why they're running, what their district is like, what they care about. It's an unbelievably impactful way to forge relationships and just to educate yourself on everything that's happening in Congress. And frankly, I wish I had done that more even in my first term, and I'm committed to doing it more in my second. And I would encourage new members to get out there on the House floor and just see how many one-on-one student-teacher conversations they can have with other members, because we all have something to learn from each other.